If your website is your product or is key to selling your product, then uptime is incredibly important. For companies like Amazon or Netflix, even a few minutes or even seconds of downtime is a very big deal. It can end up upsetting customers and actually cost the company a lot of money. There's an entire category of tools that are built for uptime monitoring, and they have advanced features like dashboards and user management and escalation policies and really the works. And for companies where constant availability is incredibly important, those tools are totally worth it. But if your needs are more basic, those types of tools can often feel a little bit too complex and it can be hard to justify the cost. That's where the app that I'm going to show here comes in, and I'm going to provide a template for this app so that you can use it too. This app is built using Google AppSheet, which is part of Google Workspace. And that means that if you're already paying for Google Workspace, you can most likely use AppSheet and this app with no additional charge. I'm going to show you how to install the app from the template in just a minute, but first let me show you exactly what it is and how it works. This is the app, and you see that I've already set up the AppSheet Advisor website here. And if I wanted to add another website, I can just click the add button here and put in some additional information about that site. But let's look at the AppSheet Advisor setup to talk about some of the settings that are available. So we have the URL, which is the actual URL of the website that we're calling out to, the HTTP method we're going to use, the expected HTTP status that we're going to get back, some text that we want to match within the response to make sure that the website is actually working properly. And then you can also add in request headers. These are HTTP headers for things like passing an authorization header or really anything else that you would need specific for the website or web service you're going to be calling. And then finally, down at the bottom, we have the emails that we want to be notified if a check fails. And you can add in multiple emails and it will reach out to each one of them when a failure occurs. And then up at the top here, notice that there's a test button that I can click in order to test this particular uptime check. And normally these will run on a schedule, but you can click test to run it right now just to make sure that it's working. Or if you just had a problem that you fixed, you can click test again to make sure that that particular uptime check is now succeeding. All right, so this is our endpoints tab. And then we also have this log tab, which shows all the checks that actually ran. So you see that I've been running this for a while. There's all these checks listed here. They're all green, indicating they were successful. But if I scroll all the way down here, there's one that was red originally from when I originally set this up to say that that particular check did not pass. And if I take a look at it, it returns a little bit more detail as far as like what failed. Was it the status code? Was it the content check, etc.? All right, so that's how the app works. Now let's take a look at how you can make a copy of the template and configure it for yourself. The first thing you're going to want to do is make a copy of the app using the template. And I've got a link for accessing the template down in the description. And once you go to the link, you'll end up on this page. If you've never signed up for an AppSheet account before, you'll have to go through the registration process before you see this. But once you have your AppSheet account, you'll land on this page. And there's a few different options here. Over on the right, there's this preview of the app. And if you hit accept there, it'll actually just let you browse the template and take a look at things. That's probably not what you want. What you want to do is use this copy and customize button up here, which is going to make your own copy of the app. So just hit copy app. Takes a few seconds. All right, and now I've got my own copy of the app. And a couple things to point out here. First, we're currently in the AppSheet editor, which is the tool that lets you build and update your AppSheet apps. And over here on the right, we have the preview of what the app looks like if you use it on mobile. And you can also click this icon where it says Open App in Browser to open the version of the app in your browser, full screen. And this is the version that we were looking at previously when we were doing the demo. Once you've got your app set up, you'll probably want to make a bookmark to this page so that you can jump directly to your app in your browser without having to go into the editor. All right, back in the editor, let's proceed with setting our app up. So one of the first things to notice here is that for some reason, when you make a copy of an AppSheet app from a template, it just assigns a random icon to it. So I had created a custom icon for this particular app. And if you want to switch to that, the way that you can do that is by going in the settings underneath here in this gear icon, and then selecting theme and brand. And then underneath app logo here, click this little drop down, go to custom, and then you put in the URL for the icon that I'm going to also include in the setup instructions. So that is this. And now that I hit return, you see that it updates to the custom icon, and I can just click save in order to save that change. All right, the next thing we need to do is make a copy of the apps script apps that are used within this in order to make the calls out to other websites. And you're just going to make a copy of those scripts into your own Google account so that you can give them permissions to run. So we do that here under automations, and that's the little robot icon. And then specifically, I'm going to select processes underneath automations, and then select the one that says request and check. And then over on the right-hand side here, you see that there's an app script project selected. And this is the app script project that's actually still in the account that you made the copy of the template from. So you just want to make a copy of that project into your own account, and then you'll be able to authorize it. So to do that, just click open. It's going to open up the project, which again is in the account that you copied from. You're going to click this overview icon up in the upper left here, and then you're going to click this copy icon. It has now made a copy of the app. You see it called it copy of Uptime Monitor. You probably want to name it Uptime Monitor for your company name or something that makes more sense to you. But this is now your own copy of the app script project in your own account. So we've got that. We can just close everything out here. And then back in the AppSheet editor, in the same place where we started here, we're just going to select that Uptime Monitor project, and we're going to select the one within our own account. So again, mine is called copy of Uptime Monitor. Yours would be called whatever you had named it. All right, that's now linked to the copy in my own account. And the last thing we need to do here is authorize it to allow it to run. So click this authorize button. It'll come up with this flow, which you've probably seen if you've authorized anything with Google before. You're just going to say who's authorizing it. You're going to hit continue. You're going to go through and just allow these things. And again, this is allowing the script that's in your own account to run. Okay, that's done. So now you see the script will be executed as this account, which is the account that I'm currently using AppSheet as. All right, and then the last setup thing we need to do is deploy the app. And the reason for that is if you look under the automations here, it's got this little warning saying that the scheduled events are not going to run because the app is not in a deployed state. So what I need to do is deploy the app, which is basically just checking a checkbox saying this app is ready to go and it's now deployed. And you do that by clicking this rocket icon in the upper left-hand corner here. And then just hitting move app to a deployed state. And that's it. Again, it doesn't really do anything except check a box to say that it's now deployed. And you can see that that's done because it's got this little green check mark next to the rocket up there. All right, this is set up. So now let's go and actually add an endpoint in order to test it. So I'm going to hit add here. I'm going to use example.com. And if you're not familiar with what that is, it's basically just this website that's used for demo purposes. So it's got this content right here. And basically what I'm going to look for is this text example domain. So I'm going to look for a 200 response to come back from it and this example domain text within the response that's returned. So here I'll just put example. We'll put in the URL example.com. It's going to be a GET request. This is the body that we want to send. So if you're doing a POST request or a PUT request, you want to actually send a body up with your request. However, in this case with a GET, we're just calling out to the website as a web browser usually would. So we're not including any body with the request. The expected status is 200. So I'm going to leave that as is. And again, I want to check for the text example domain. So I'm going to type that in there. I don't want any request header, so I'm just going to leave that as is, and I'm going to add my own email for the email that I want to be notified if a check fails. So that's all set now. We can just click save. And I can either run a test by clicking this test icon in the list here, or if I click through this record, I can click it there as well. So I'll hit test. It's just showing a confirmation that I want to actually run this test, because if the check fails, it will send out notifications to whoever's in that email notification list. So I'm going to hit test. And you see whenever AppSheet's processing something, an icon appears up in the upper right-hand corner there, indicating that it's currently processing. So that's done now. If I click log here, you see that it ran the check and it was successful since our expected text was returned and we did get the expected status. All right, in order to test it failing, let's go in here and let's change the expected test to something else. So we'll say not example domain. I'm going to click save. I'll click to run that test again. All right, you see it's processing, and as soon as that finishes, you'll see it pop up in the list here. It's now red saying that that test failed, and it will have also sent me an email saying that it failed at that point. Before we wrap up, let's take a look at a few other things under automations. The first is that this is currently set to run on the hour every hour. So that's this check up here, and it's set to run on the 0 minute of the hour. And there's some other checks that I have here set to run at 15 minutes after the hour, 30 minutes after the hour, 45 minutes after the hour, but they're all currently disabled. If you did want to turn them on, you can just select one and then hit enable up here, and it will enable that particular one to run as well. And the next thing to look at is under run log here, and you see that the one thing that we currently have enabled there is to send emails on failure. And that's basically triggering on a failure row being added to the run log, in which case it sends an email, which is set up here. There's a few other things that are disabled here. The first is to delete logs that are older than 30 days, so you basically don't continue to accumulate additional data in there forever. And the second is to send notifications on failure. So if you install the AppSheet app on your phone, you'll be able to receive push notifications there on the failures instead of or in addition to the email notifications that you're receiving. And again, you could enable that by just selecting it and clicking the enable button up here. So as you can see, Google AppSheet is incredibly customizable, and if you spend a little bit of time clicking around in the editor there, you'll start to see what all the different options are. And one other really cool thing about it is it's able to use Google Sheets for its data source, and that's exactly what we're doing in this app. So you can basically create a nice user interface and add automation and add data validation on top of things that you might already be using Google Sheets for. If you want to learn more about that, be sure to subscribe to this channel because that's basically what it's all about. And if you do end up using the Uptime monitoring app, please let me know down in the comments. I'd love to hear about it. All right, that's all I got for today. Thanks for watching and happy building.